Welcome back to another episode of Hello Redlow, where this month I continue to talk about life's transitions, motherhood, and the legacy of Roots and Wings. Get out your pen and paper because you're definitely going to want to take notes. So sit back, enjoy, and listen in. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited today. I'm your host, Terry Mullen. This is the Hello Redlow podcast. I'm so excited about my guest today. Her name is Esther Goetz. And if you're not familiar, get ready. You're going to be blown away. I actually heard Esther on another podcast called Better Than Gossip, and I was so impressed with what she had to say that I reached out and asked if she'd be on this podcast. She so kindly said yes, and I'm so excited. She's here with me today, and she is a mother of four, just like me, stepping into this next season of life. I'm mainly familiar with her from her Instagram account, Moms of Bigs, that has grown to over 100,000 people. She's doing great things to help women step into this next season of life. She is multifaceted, and I'm going to let her tell her story. So please give a warm welcome to Esther Goetz.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind.
You're welcome.
So my story. So I'm just going to tell you how, just real quickly about me. I'm a wife to one and a mom to four, like you said, grownish and flownish kids. And I have a real passion for women, moms, especially, of course, my page is Moms of Bigs, in the seasons of transition. I always say from 13 till when they come off your payroll and then some, or when they come off your health insurance, I should say. So yeah, because it's this time of our lives, I think there's a lot of information for us and play groups and bus stop conversations when they're younger. Right. But when we go into these years, we all sort of head underground for good reasons, like our children's privacy, and some not so good reasons like, ooh, we don't know what the heck we're doing and we're afraid to talk about it.
I love that. That's really good. And I've been there, right?
Yes, especially because I've been there, and you know what it's like to have four kids all over the spectrum. There's probably not a story that hasn't happened in this house.
And I think we are afraid. I think that's really well said, because we want to give them wings to fly and still roots. And I would love for you to dive into that with your tagline. I love your tagline that you have, if you could share that with us. But it's true. I think we're uncomfortable about talking about those emotions that we have, the feelings that we have. We're kind of stepping into, okay, who are we now after the kids leave? We don't want them to feel bad.
Yeah, and I think, so I'll give you my tagline for my Moms of Bigs, which really comes from pretty much way down deep inside of me, is the roots of unconditional love and the wings of freedom. And then it's the wings of freedom for them to be completely themselves. So that's real freedom, I think, is when our people are not mini-me's, they're not, like chips off the old block. They are actually, we've provided a space for them to explore and find out who they are, not who we want them to be, not who society expects them to be, or church, or whatever is out there, their coach, their professor, their spouse, whoever it is, but that they would figure out who they are. And that we would give them permission to fly. I mean, they don't need our permission, but that we would invite them, I would say, to fly, like you just said, into that.
I love that so much, Esther. I mean, that really speaks to my heart. And that's probably what really struck a chord with me when I heard you on the podcast, Better Than Gossip. You were talking about that. And I thought, oh, that just speaks to my heart, because that's where I am. And I think that's hard to do sometimes. We have to step aside and let them be who they are.
And it starts too, I think when they put on all their hats, like in elementary school and high school, whether they are in the musicals and it's exhausting, right? And we all know this from raising, hey, I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to try this. And you're running around after school, but that's all part of their process, just like our own process of figuring out who they are, what they love, who they love, and how they love, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. I read a book called Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and she calls it being held and free. Oh. We all long to be held and free. And I think about that even for me as a mom, like I I want to be held. I want my kids to unconditionally love me, but I don't want them dictating who I am. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's, and there, but there is that deep longing within us. And another friend of mine who does a thing called positive parenting, she says a fierce commitment and also loving detachment. So there's also that too. You're fiercely committed to your kids, but you're lovingly detaching from them. That's like the hold them, hold tight, hold them loosely, push, pull, all of those things. We want to maintain relationship, but at the same time, give them autonomy. It's probably the most difficult thing in all of parenting.
I sit here, my mouth is probably wide open because you and I already communicated a little bit before this, but you just have these incredible nuggets of wisdom that just resonate so deeply with me. And that's another one right there. It's exactly right. That is so good.
And how do you go about doing that? Right. I mean, it's a lot, let's say, for those of us who probably grew up in an authoritarian household, or say our parents used guilt and fear. And we know that feeling of like, oh, I don't want to go for the holidays because my mom's just going to guilt me, and all those shoulds. I think our generation has come and said, that's not working for me.
Right.
And I know it works. It works in a very surfacey, yeah, okay, maybe they have us for the holidays, but inside we're not really there. We're not there as our whole selves. And I don't know about you, I didn't want that for my kids.
Yeah.
I didn't want that in my relationship with my kids. I want them to choose to be with me because they love being with me.
Right.
I want it to be their choice and not something that they feel like they have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, it plays out in very, very, it's a lot harder of a process for us.
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix. Like a quick fix is using guilt, right? That's quick.
Right.
That's
Right.
easy and quick. But a harder, longer term way of doing things is diving deeper, having conversations, dealing with your own emotions, and yes, all of that. It's much more complicated, but isn't that what we want? We want in the end, we know that the complicated things are what bring us life and freedom, not
Right.
the formulaic stuff. We know that doesn't work, especially on teens and young adults.
Right. Exactly. And your heartbeat really, as we were discussing a little bit before, your heartbeat really is helping the mom, right? Giving, because as you say, it's harder for us. The kids are ready to go. They're ready to launch into their life. And it's harder for us being left behind, so to speak, and dealing with our own stuff.
Yeah, we've had a front row seat for their entire life, and then all of a sudden, you got to get pushed to this. I always think of the sports metaphor, right? You're the one helping them get their stuff ready, and you're on the sidelines. Sometimes you're their coach, and then in high school, you're not their coach anymore, maybe, and you move to the sidelines, and you're sitting in the bleachers, and you're cheering them on. And then in this next stage, actually, like, you can't even see their game, right? They're somewhere far away, and you're not even able to watch them play. And so there's that long, slow journey. Maybe you get them to tell you what their game is. And I'm not talking about sports here.
Right.
I'm talking about life. But you get to hear maybe what game they're playing or how it went and their feelings surrounding it. But you actually kind of move through those stages of, oh, I was actually, their coach, to watch them on the sidelines, to wow, now I'm just seeing it maybe even on TV or not seeing it at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And then, so it almost in a way, for lack of a better word, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, there's almost like this identity crisis in a way that can happen to us as we, especially those of us that were maybe full-time moms that didn't have something outside of raising our children, especially if we had a busy household. There comes this, like you said, a grieving process as well, right? And then who are we now? Who are we now as we step forward?
that really does lead me into talking about, like, what do we do with these older kids, say young adults, college, the 18, 19, 20, 25, 30. What do we do as moms? Like, how do we handle like that transition? And that's really a lot of my passion, is these transition periods of letting go. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I kind of have three ideas of how we maintain like sort of this really healthy relationship with our our adult kids
Mm-hmm.
as they move towards adulthood. What did I tell you yesterday when we are pre-call? I call them baby adults when they're
Yes.
newborn adults, and then they kind of turn into like elementary school adults, and it's a long process until they're like adults. And I know sometimes I still feel like a teenage adult. I still like want my mom, like it's we always want. I have a funny story. It's kind of funny and kind of not funny, but I don't think I had kids yet, and I was living next door to a mom who, a very much older mom. She became one of my mentors as I had children
Mm-hmm.
in the house, but I hadn't had kids yet. Her mom actually passed away, and she was crying, and I was like, she was 96. Like, what is the matter? She said to me, she was still my mommy. She was 66. And of course, I was totally clueless because I wasn't a mom.
Wow.
But I thought, oh my gosh, yes. There's only one of us in our kids' lives. Like, there's not anybody else who's ever their mother. No one can ever take away that role that we have. It morphs and changes and grows, but that one of a kind place for them, with us and them, it is truly like irreplaceable. So we want it to be
right
as possible. That's my passion.
Yeah.
That's why I have my Moms of Big page.
Say that again. Say that last part again that you said. You want it to be how, what?
I want it to be very healthy, and I want it to be long-term, and I want it to be, from a place of freedom. So I have three kind of ways to do this. And I think the first one, and you alluded to it and you kept talking about it, is we have to really deal with our own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
We have to grieve. We have to forgive our former selves. We have to grieve. We have to kind of peek back at what's going on inside of us and do that in an appropriate ways. And because of the underground thing, if we can find one other person in this season that we feel safe with, or if we don't have anybody, maybe we have to go to therapy and really walk through that. But it's definitely not appropriate, I think, to grieve and tell all that to your kids, because that feels very emotionally manipulative. It's okay to say, I miss you. And it's totally appropriate, but it's not okay, just like when they were little, to have them be responsible to fix your emotions.
Right. Very good. I love that.
Yeah. So I would say grieving, really owning your own stuff. That's huge. And I would say that's probably from when they're little all the way to now. But I think that the emotions all come crashing down. Somebody DM'd me on my Moms of Big page last night and just said, what am I supposed to do? I'm in the car. My son just chose his college, and we're driving back from, the college visit, and he's going to be 12 hours away. And she's just like, I'm just in the back seat. He's in the front, and my tears are just streaming down my face. And I thought, how could they not be? That's so appropriate. And you're going to probably have to work through those and sit with those and know that your tears are a good thing. If you weren't having, the tears are appropriate because you love so much.
That's just wonderful. I love what you just said. I think that's beautiful.
Right. And tears are a good thing, because it means that we love our kids. And grief is good. And I think regret is going to be part of it as they transition. We all have so many regrets from how we parented them when they were little. So dealing with, forgiving ourselves, there's a myriad of emotions that come from every angle, especially during these big transitions, and especially in the launching of adults, the launching of this, birthing adults is what I say.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just so interesting as you're talking. I'm just reflecting on my own life and looking back with each, and the transitions I made. It's fascinating. And I've done a lot of personal work. So I feel both sides of this. So it's interesting. I don't mean to interrupt you. Keep going. Just fascinating.
No, personal work is key. And I think that is the beauty to this time. And I love what you're doing on your podcast, because the beauty of this time is a lot of times we have given so much that we haven't had opportunity, or given ourselves opportunity for the personal work. So call it midlife crisis, call it whatever you want, but it's a messy and beautiful time. So sacred. What a sacred space that we're given, where we can then explore what the heck is going on inside of us.
Oh, I love that.
And it's very, very beautiful and very, very messy. It's not going to be linear. Not like raising kids was that linear. No.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, I have a couple other things. And number two, and I would say is the posture of humility and learning is really what we're going to need as we go forward to maintain a healthy relationship, is to put yourself in a posture of learning. We've probably been in the position of quote unquote their authority, and I don't even love that word. I don't mind the word authoritative, but we have been somewhat of an authority. I hate the word authoritarian, but I think at this point, especially in the high school years and through the college years, and then as they become adults, really that movement to them as they are just as much your teachers as you are their teachers, and you're just as much of a learner as they are. And that really takes leaning into curiosity and asking open-ended questions without agenda. And it really takes listening from a posture of, I don't know everything, and you have a lot to teach me. Help me learn. I will, not to get super political, but I think it's kind of a funny story. We have 9 kind of adults in our family now, including significant others. And last year, during the most heated, crazy election, right? I don't even know, since I've been born, we had Christmas together afterwards in 2020, and we talked about who everybody voted for. 3 of us had voted for one person, 3 of us had voted for another person, 1 person hadn't voted at all, and 2 people had voted for like a third party. And yet and everybody just listened. It was like, why did you do that? Why did you do this? How come that? What? And it was like so interesting because we could still come together and I was so, as a mom, so interested. And I had 2 kids kind of on either ends of the spectrum. And instead of being like, you're right, you're wrong, I watched them listen and interact. And I just kept peppering them with questions like, oh, well, what made you do that? And, oh, I see your point. And it was so helpful. And I thought, oh my gosh, if a family can get through an election like that and still come out and be able to really celebrate Christmas together and be kind to one another and respectful, I had to say in that moment, I was like, I've done my job. Because we've all seen the fracturing of families and friendships, everything over just things that are where we're not leaning into humility and understanding and curiosity and wonder. And yeah, I want to know why my daughter voted for X. Why not? That's who she is. And how cool is that? What makes her tick?
This is so beautiful because I'm right here in this exact space. Our kids have become very good debaters, but I welcome it. I'm just like you. And so I sit here and I'm thinking, this is how our country should be. We should be able to have our opinions, still love one another, and not hate each other from being on different sides. This is beautiful.
Yeah, and that just leads into the posture of curiosity and humility. I always say, turn to wonder. Don't make assumptions. Just turn to wonder. Turn to like, why did my kid just do that? Why did they just say that? And then just ask them questions. Get to know them. They're a person just like anybody else, and they want to be known and loved.
Oh, you're just amazing. This is so beautiful. And now I know why your Instagram account has grown so much. This is a message that so needs to be shared and told. We truly do need to step into this and love our kids for who they are. And I am in that place where I really they teach me more now than I teach them, for sure. I have learned so much from them. I used to have this joke about one of my daughters in particular. I kept saying, when I grow up, I want to be her. And I feel that way. Like I say that about all my kids. They all have these different strengths and they have taught me so much about life now. And so this just blesses my heart. So keep going. This is so good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did actually have 4. I thought I had 3 and I have 4. So the third thing was, and I'm really big on this, and I think I've talked about it even on my Facebook lives in different places, but I'll just briefly go over it in case people have already heard it from me. It's just that we need to turn from a posture of demanding to invitation, and then deal with our emotions in the process. So it really goes to respecting, it really goes to boundaries, and it's kind of like 3A and B. So where we really want to continue to pursue our kids, invite them for the holidays, invite them for Mother's Day, invite them, but give them the freedom, and here it is, to be completely themselves. We want them to know that we want to be with them, but we also want them to have the freedom to say no. Right? That's hard. I had a year where my son was like, and I did it too when I was his age. Actually, we're going to go spend Christmas with my girlfriend's parents. And but we'll come afterwards. And he was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, I call him dude.
Yeah.
You know how the joke is like, call you dude? I call him dude.
That's awesome.
It's fine. I can be sad and you can have freedom. Those are both appropriate. You're absolutely doing nothing wrong. And then I can also be sad the same way as if you invited me to come to something, maybe it would make you sad, but I'm not necessarily doing anything wrong in my no. And so that's 3B is I always say the boundaries thing is huge. They have then in turn, they have to be, they're invitational and not demanding toward me. And then it doesn't smack of that guilt. Oh, the guilt, there's no guilt in like, they didn't come or why didn't you show up or whatever. And it's like, and I have such a fun story, and I'm sure you heard this on the podcast. It's my husband's big birthday. He's going to be 60 this summer. And we just said to everybody, hey, this is what's going on. We have a house in Washington State. Nobody's ever been there. We got a house. You're responsible to get your plane tickets. We'll pay for everything else. Do you want to come? And all 4 of them are taking their week off. And some of their significant others are coming and some might not be able to. But it was like, okay, that was just an invitation. And you know what? It's okay if one of them had to say no. That's just how life is. But I love that. I want that for myself. I want that in my friendships. I want that with other women my age. I don't want people being like demanding that I have to be there. I don't want that from my parents that are still alive. I want to be able to be held, unconditionally loved, and free to be myself and to make all my own boundaries. And I've had to do that with my kids. I did it just on Mother's Day. And I know I told you this.
Yeah.
My daughter said, hey, she lives 2 hours away, want to meet for dinner halfway. And I had been so exhausted from being the mom of bigs and helping my son move. And I had driven and it had been a really difficult week. And I said, I don't want to get out of my jammies. Can we just FaceTime today? And she was like, that's fine. I just wanted you to feel loved. And it's fine. I'll really miss you, but I'll hold on to your gift. And I was like, that's great. I'll miss you too. But thanks for giving me permission to stay in my jammies. And literally I watched Netflix with my husband. I just that's what I needed for my Mother's Day. So that's like, that is just, so I always say that demanding, everybody knows. I mean, every single one of your listeners is going to know that feeling of guilted into something, and that's not healthy. That's not what I want in the long term for me and my kids. So
100%. And that's beautiful. And I really hope everybody heard that, because that's another mic drop on both of those. Just being able to, and I actually had just, my husband and I just talked about this, like, that's the goal, is to be able to plan. We'll plan something, because our kids are getting married as well. I think I shared that with you. And so they're going to have in-laws and other people. They have to divide their time. I never want them to feel guilty. I always want to be able to provide an opportunity for them to come when and they can. I'll see them if and when we can, but I don't ever want them to feel guilty. And so I love that. And I love the reverse of that you have boundaries as well, and they respect those. Beautiful.
Yeah, so mutual, I mean, all of this stems from mutual respect, right? All of it really stems from the underlying posture and position of respecting each other. And it starts hopefully young. Like my dad taught me that. He used to get up down on the floor with my kids when they were little, and he just was like, I'd be like, why are you on the floor, Dad? He's like, because I want to be eye to eye with them. I don't want to be towering over them. I'm too big. And so like, he just demonstrated to me how we respect everyone, no matter how old, rich, poor, our kids, our teens, which is really hard at times. You know, we feel disrespected, they feel disrespected, but if we can continue that underlying respect and sort of playing out in these three A and B ways.
That's so beautiful. And you know, one thing too, that I'm listening to you, Esther, you are great with words. I think so often we don't have the words or the vocabulary to put that to that particular emotion, and the kids don't either. And so I think people get tripped up in that as well, because they don't have the dialogue. And just by having the words gives somebody freedom as well, right? And you are magnificent. I'm listening to you. You're magnificent with putting words to the feelings.
Oh, thanks. I am a writer. I love that. That's my favorite.
Well, it's powerful because I think that's a tool that helps kids own what they feel, what they think, and not feel judged by that. They're able to be themselves because they have the words to express it. So
Right.
that's powerful.
Yeah, and it's not with that, and this is all not easy. This is not the easy way to parent. This is like an easy way to be in a relationship. This is the more difficult way, but it's the much better way. It's worth the price, I would say. It's really worth the price that we pay, in like having those harder conversations and in walking through our own emotions and all of the things that we have to do, or getting help from a professional or whatever we need to do. It's the harder way, but it's such a better way. Oh, I just want I want us to do better. I know I feel responsible that each generation is left better than the generation. And I hope that my kids then will take this and from the legacy that hopefully my husband and I have left them of these roots and wings, and that they'll take that to their kids, and that those, then it just kind of can bloom from there.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I
That's,
love my kids. You know that you
yeah.
love your kids. I love them, and I just want absolutely the best for them. And I want them to, they didn't come into this world to be me. They came in this world to be them.
Oh my gosh, there's another mic drop.
This is
And
my job.
and I'm thinking when you're talking too, the other thing, like you giving them the roots too, you've created this wonderful safe space because life is messy, life is hard. Our kids have seen us go through difficult things, but I think being able to have these conversations, you've given them this safe space to come to you as needed. They know they're not going to be judged. They know that you're going to offer support. If you don't know how to help, you're going to help them find the help they need. And what a beautiful thing. What a
Oh,
beautiful thing.
oh yeah, it's but not unless I sound like the perfect mother. If my children were on here, they could tell you stories. I mean, we all have hopes, and then how it practically plays out is a lot more messy, as we know. But I'm just thankful to have sort of like a mantra that I'm living by, and I have to. Everybody says, "Oh, you have this mantra for other people." No, I have to preach it to myself every single day. I have to be like, "Oh, that's right, roots of unconditional love." Oh, that's right. When I'm about to say like, "Oh, you were with your mother-in-law last time," or when I'm, like I have to be like, "Okay, it's your wings of freedom." Wings, like I have to always preach. I got to preach to the choir. So I'm passionate. I'm all speaking to myself here.
Yeah, no, it's so good.
Preaching to myself.
It's
Preaching to myself.
so good. I remember last year, we had gone through a hard time through COVID, all this stuff. And my daughter had come out here just to kind of be safe from everything. And when she left, I looked at her and I said, listen, I want you to go live your life. Dad and I are good. You have your whole life ahead. You go live your life. You are free to go. You don't have to worry about us. And I feel like, ooh, now after talking to you, I feel like, ooh, I did a good job. Anyway.
Good job. I think a lot of times one of those two pieces is missing. Like in past generations, I would say, a lot of us didn't necessarily have the roots of unconditional love. We had the wings of freedom. We like did whatever we wanted, ran around, but we didn't necessarily feel grounded. And so I think that those two, that both and is really, really key. It really matters that you kind of have both sides of the coin. Because like I said, that this woman said, fierce commitment to our people that we love. We want them to know that we're fiercely committed to them, but also lovingly detached where they're not responsible for us, right?
Mm.
It's like a one-way street. So yeah, so that's kind
That's
of
absolutely wonderful. I thank you so much for all of that. That's just such it's medicine. That's like honey to my soul. And hopefully for all the listeners here too, I think it's just incredible words of wisdom. And I know you have a course that's coming up. Can you shed a little bit of light in that for women that want to learn more about this, learn more how to do this? Do you want to share a little bit about that with us?
I do. So I have something, and it's going to be limited here. It's going to be limited to if you have a child that's leaving to go to college. So I really know that that's a super hard transition. So right now I have it's like a course. It's more like a sigh for your soul, hopefully every morning, as you kind of walk through the process of letting your child, like not letting them, but as they go away to college. So I have a 50-day email journey called Roots and Wings. And it really is it helps you. I walk with you through sort of the grief process, all the different things that we need to do. You get an email every morning in your inbox for 50 days for 10 weeks. So it's kind of like end of August, beginning of September through right before Thanksgiving. And there's a Facebook group that you're involved in. But the nice thing is, the good part about it is I send stuff to the moms, but I also have a little thing that sort of is a takeoff on what I send to the moms for you as a mom to stay connected to your kid at college for the first 50 days, where it's sort of like a prompt. I give you sort of what to send to your kid at school, and you personalize it, you do whatever. There's like quotes, and it's hard to sort of explain. I have a very long thing. If you're interested, I can send you, and then you can read all about it. There's like a sign up. There's not a sign up. There's a way to find out more. And then from there would be a sign up for it.
Fabulous. And since we're stepping into this graduation season, people are sending their kids off to college. It's probably just a great thing. I would have been great for me back then. It's just fabulous. So I will put all of that in the show notes, as well as where they can reach out to you at Moms of Bigs. Is there anything else that I've missed that you would love to share? Any other words of wisdom before we carry on our busy days here? Anything else?
I would say is your listeners are definitely going to get 10% off. Only your listeners. So if there's a mom out there who finds himself in this position, or you have a friend, because I've done this for several years now, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing because it is such a needed thing. It's such a difficult time for us. And the Facebook group especially is kind of like an added bonus. You can pay a little extra, and there's Q&As in there. I come on, you can ask me questions. I sort of support you as you're walking through this process. And so that's really what it is. It's sort of like, someone who's been there and done that with her kids are now coming along and sort of cheering you on. I want to give you the wings of unconditional love, and then the wings of freedom to be yourself as a mom and to work through your own stuff. So there is a 10% off for your listeners. So I know that.
Perfect.
Show notes. But
yeah,
I mean, I would say the only last thing I would just share with people is it's hard. This isn't an easy process. I think that we can feel very, very alone. And I think that's one of the greatest lies, is that we are alone and that no one else understands. And that disconnection is so awful. And I think this space lends itself to weird disconnection. Like I said, the underground years. And I think we need to push through that and really go out of our comfort zones, even if it's one other person or two other people. That is actually something that I mention in that journey. I talk about maybe this transition time for you is when you can make a new friend, maybe your best friend. I made one of my best friends in the whole world. I made them like 2 years ago.
Wow.
I mean, I said to her, I cannot believe it. I can't believe it. So I always say there could be somebody who just gets you, especially in this space. Yeah. And so really to make sure that we are committed to walking alongside other people in this process, and that they walk alongside us, and we give them the roots of unconditional love and the wings of freedom.
I love that. And that's, for me, just reaching out to you and making this connection. And this space that I've stepped into also, I really get it. Like, it just sets my soul on fire. I get so excited to meet other women who are out there trying to make a difference, trying to help. And for so long, there's certain things about technology that frustrated me, but now being in this space and doing it, I'm like, I'm so grateful. You're all the way across the United States and I'm all the way out here. And here we are, we get to make this connection. It's just incredible. And I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful for what you're doing, Esther. It's remarkable. Clearly, you have hit a space where there's a need. I mean, you're growing like crazy on Instagram. It's fabulous. And one last question I wanted to ask you that made me think about something since COVID. Are you seeing an uptick in even this stronger need of connection? And how are kids doing? Are they feeling free? Are they feeling really disrupted, or, having this stress of now going away? What's the world like? I'm burdened about that a little bit, about kids now. What does the world look like for them? And they've been so disrupted. So do you mind stepping into that for a little bit?
Absolutely. And I would say this, I think to be honest with you, I think kids are disrupted and I think moms are very disrupted because there was always like, what do you do next? We kind of had this surety about what our kids were going to do next. Oh, they're going to be in high school. Then they're going to quote unquote, maybe go to college or go to a trade school or go into the military. And there was always like, what are we doing next? And it was more certain. And to lean into this place, and like we've all done, I think we're really good at it now of constantly pivoting, where we as moms are now having to pivot even our own expectations. It's taking kids longer to go to college. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to go necessarily right now when I was just going to a school and learning online, and maybe they're realizing, hey, this isn't actually for me. I don't really love this. So I think it's given a lot of freedom, but then as freedom gets taken away, so does certainty, right?
Oh,
so you're like, okay, we have freedom, we have more and more freedom, but we have less and less certainty. And navigating that as a mom is really, really hard. So I have moms that reach out to me more than kids. Based on my own kids, I've seen them struggle and thrive, right? I've seen them be able to pivot and learn how to pivot. These poor kids, they have seen some crazy stuff in their life.
Right.
Crazy stuff. In these last 20 years, it has been insane here in this country, around the world. And because of social media and because of media, obviously, it's in their face 24/7. So, same with us. I think this last 20 years has been unbelievable. But I would say that COVID is a blessing and a curse. Right? As we've all learned, we learned what it meant to slow down. Now we're all back busy and probably we don't like that. Our kids are probably feeling that same, oh, there was no pressure. And now there's all this pressure again. And so actually, again, being able to navigate our own emotions through that, our mom emotions about them. Hey, maybe they're not going to graduate in like 3 years, or maybe that kid's like, dude, I'm taking a gap year, and it's okay. It's really okay for us to go, all of that magical thinking that we had, our kid's just going to do X, then Y, then Z, then A, and then B, and then C, Z, and C. That has blown up in their face. They've seen that that's not the way the world works. And that's blown up in our face too. And I think it's okay for us to do some things about how do we feel about that? How do they feel about that? But yeah, it's a struggle, but it's a strength. Yeah. They're going to have resilience like we didn't necessarily have. But man, the connection piece, like it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. And I'm very grateful for the online space. I'm learning as a mom with my introvert son to be 100% transparent here. I get so concerned about his connections because he's an introvert and he does online stuff. But he said to me, but Mom, that's kind of how we connect now. And it's not like I'm not connecting. And I said, I know. And we're walking through. I'm like, well, then tell me more about that. What do you mean you're connecting? And he's like, I know that I can't do this forever, but this is really what I have. He works from home. There's all these ways not to connect with people. They don't even have like jobs to go to necessarily anymore. Right. So I think they're going to have to be intentional and they're going to have to figure it out. But yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I mean, that really struck me as you're talking. I'm thinking, wow, these last few years, especially, there's a need for moms to feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy for having this thought or having these feelings. And by, joining your group, joining your page, it's equipping them with tools on how to communicate with their children through these times. And I think it's so, what I love about you, Esther, it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm learning. I'm learning right here with you. I understand. I know this is hard. I get it. I'm frustrated too, or whatever. Right.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to ever feel alone. If you're out there, you are not. I have had every thought in your head. At one point or another, I promise you, kill my children at times. And I'm joking.
No, I know you are. You're hilarious.
It's rough and we are paying the price. And our kids are paying the price, but I see a resilience in this generation. I love them. I love this generation. They have made us think outside the box. Thank God for them. I just think like Zoom, like, thank God. We wouldn't have this. I wouldn't be doing this. My son's got me all mic'd up and good and great because, you know, he had to learn how to pivot and I'm pivoting along with them.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. I mean, my kids have taught me so much. It's fabulous. And they have a great opportunity as well, to make a difference with this generation going forward. They have an opportunity to do some great things and make a difference from this whole big mess that we've created here. Oh, you're just remarkable. I encourage everybody, please, please, please follow Esther. Truly, her Instagram account is growing like crazy, and you can see why. She has a wonderful voice just to make everyone feel seen and heard and loved and understood, and just create a space too for connection for women. So thank you so much, Esther. Thank you for saying yes to me.
Loved it. I just get excited that you and I are like, we're twins. So even that, how great is that? And I'm a words of affirmation girl, so I feel very full, but thank you. You are this podcast. I hope it just blows up because it is such a needed space. Really, this time of life is we have a lot of life left to live, hopefully. And yet we have a lot of life that we've gone through and things and a lot of wisdom to share. So, oh yeah, all of you people out there listening, I'm telling you, you rock. It's going to be great. You have a lot left to give in this world, and we have a lot of good stuff ahead of us. We really do.
Well, thank you. A huge thank you so much, Esther. And in the back on her wall, it says, just breathe. So everybody just breathe. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for being here today. I hope this blessed you as much as it did me. It was just a wonderful conversation. And please make sure to leave a review on the podcast. I'd love to hear from you, and make sure you subscribe. All of the information that Esther gave me will be in the show notes. So until we meet again, may you know that you are seen, you are heard, you are loved, and you belong. God bless.